Hey guys, my name's Jamie and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this buttercream ruffle drip cake. This cake I just made for fun at home. I'm not in my commercial space today. My kids asked me if I could make them a fancy cake, and this is what I came up with for them. So for this project you're going to need 4 cake layers, 2 of one size, and then the other 2 layers you want to be 1 inch smaller. I used 2 9-inch vanilla rounds and 2 8-inch chocolate rounds. My son loves vanilla and my daughter loves chocolate, so I always try to combine them when I'm baking for them at home. The first thing you're going to do is level off your cake layers to give you a nice flat surface to work with, and then you're going to fill your cakes. I add a simple syrup to all of my cakes. It just helps keep them really moist and keep them fresh for longer. And then you're going to put your filling or your buttercream on, smooth it out and level it, and then you're going to put the top cake layer on. It's important to note that when you put the top cake layer on, when you're stacking cakes, that you flip it upside down. You want the bottom to be the top, that way you have a really flat surface that you're working with and you don't have to worry about it being uneven or unlevel. Now we're going to crumb coat this cake. So to crumb coat, you just add a really thin layer of icing all over your cake, and this just traps in all the crumbs so that when you go to do your final layer of icing, you don't get a bunch of crumbs in it. It's a really simple trick that you can do at home that gives you a more professional look. We're going to bring that lip of frosting on the top to the center, cleaning off our offset spatula between each swipe. Now I'm just using my bench scraper to smooth it out a little bit. I put that top tier in the freezer, and now I'm going to work on the chocolate layers. So I have an 8-inch cake board that I'm going to be keeping under my 8-inch cakes. That's going to be in the cake. It's what's going to give it stability so that it doesn't crush in on itself and fall over. I did put it on a 10-inch cake board just so I had something to handle while I'm decorating. So we are filling and crumb coating the 8-inch layer, the 2 chocolate cakes, the exact same way that we did the vanilla. And we are going to smooth it out with our cake smoother, and then we're going to bring that lip of frosting into the center. Again, cleaning off the offset spatula between each swipe. And now I'm mixing up a teal buttercream, that's the color my kids asked for, and I'm filling a piping bag with a petal tip. A petal tip looks like a teardrop. The top of the tip is much wider, and then it comes down to a point at the bottom. And this is what we're going to use to create those buttercream ruffles. So I'm just filling that and setting it to the side for now. I'm going to start with the top tier, the 2 chocolate layers. For this I wanted to go with a semi-naked look, so not completely naked cake, but a little bit. I want to see the cake underneath, but I also want to see the teal frosting. So you just add your buttercream onto the sides. You always want to put more buttercream on the sides of a cake than you think you're going to need, and then when you smooth it, you take off that excess and get it down to the look that you want. So we just use our cake smoother to smooth that all out. I want to see some of the cake shining through on this, which is why you can see the chocolate cake underneath. I really like the look of naked cakes with chocolate cake because it really provides that contrast and that pop. Bringing the lip of frosting into the center again, and then we are going to take this cake and put it in the freezer to set for about 10 minutes. You know your cakes are set when you can touch the cake and it doesn't leave any residue on your fingers and you don't leave any marks on the cake. That's when you know you're good to bring it back out and continue working with it. And when you're doing this at home, don't be afraid to go over your cake multiple times to get the look that you want. It's definitely something that comes with a lot of practice, and you can never really do it too much. So after taking the cake out of the freezer, I'm now using a hot bench scraper to really get my cake smooth. The water I'm dipping the cake in is really hot, boiling water. I dip my cake smoother into it. It has to be a metal smoother spatula, and then that water is going to heat it. You make sure you dry it off really well, and then you can go around your cake and it's going to just smooth it out really well, get rid of any air bubbles that are in your frosting, and give you a really clean, professional finish. Sometimes I'll do this standing next to the sink, and I will just have the hot water running and I'll run my cake smoother underneath of it, dry it off with a paper towel, and then smooth out my cake. So this is my bottom tier. I'm just doweling it. I use boba tea straws, put them in, shake them up, give them a little wriggle back and forth, and then pull them up where the frosting's on your straws where you want to cut it. And then put some buttercream down to secure your top tier and place the top tier on top. I use parchment paper to push down on my top tier to really secure it to that buttercream. The parchment paper just makes it to where I don't leave a big palm print or fingerprints all over the cake. Center it on the top, and then we are ready to start piping. So for the bottom tier, I'm going to do buttercream ruffles. This is going to be using that petal tip that I showed you with the teardrop shape. You want to have the wide part of the tip flat against your cake and the thin point of the tip pointing away from your cake. And you want the wide part touching the cake as you pipe, and it'll create ruffles. So you just kind of go all over the cake whichever way you want, going in circles, going in little shapes just to fill in all the space. And it's important to clean off your piping tip in between uses for this, because if you have a bunch of buttercream on it, it's going to create a really messy ruffle that's like smeared looking. So to get a clean ruffle, just make sure you're wiping it off between piping. It is important to note that a piping bag is easier to control and manage if you have less buttercream in it. So if you're a beginner, maybe only fill your piping bag part way and just fill it as you need it. I tend to fill my piping bags all the way up, but I've also been doing this for a lot of years, so for me, I can manage that. But if you're just learning, definitely put less buttercream in your piping bag and fill more often, and you'll find that you have better control. It also helps because when you're piping, your hand will heat the buttercream that's inside, and it can give you a runnier buttercream if you're not moving fast enough. So if you have less buttercream in your piping bag, then you just kind of avoid that happening. And then when you fill it, you'll have nice fresh buttercream that's not warmed up from your hands. So I'm just going around now and filling in any little holes that I see that may need to be filled. And then I am going to pipe around the top edge of that bottom tier. It took 2 turns of the cake for me to completely fill that space. You want to fill it so that we don't see the cake board that is underneath the 2 8-inch layers. It's what's going to give us that nice clean look. If you can see that cake board, it just looks a little bit more sloppy and unprofessional, so we want to fill that in. What's nice about the buttercream ruffles is you don't have to worry about getting really straight edges or sharp lines, so it's great for beginners. I'm now doing a white chocolate ganache drip. This drip I just made with white chocolate and heavy cream. And if you want the drips to stop partway down the cake, put it in the freezer at this point until the drips set and then bring it out to decorate. I wasn't concerned if my drips went all the way down to the second tier, so I just started decorating. And for this cake, I'm decorating with golden Oreos and meringue cookies that I made yesterday. I'm sprinkling on just some crushed Oreos, and I'm doing a crescent moon shape on top. I really love the look of meringues on cakes. I think it's really fun. They have the fun, swirly top, and they're super bright white, which is a nice pop against the teal frosting. And when I asked my daughter what she wanted on her fancy cake, she said Oreos, so that is why I chose to do those. I'm also just piping some cute little plops around the cake with an open star tip, just to give a little bit more texture and to fill in some of the spaces that are needed. And this is a part of cake decorating that is really fun and really great for anybody to do, because it's where you can let your creativity shine and just kind of express yourself however you want the cake to look. And just keep adding things onto it until you get the look that you want. I also added in some large blue sixlets, which are like edible chocolate candies, and some small sugar pearls just to add a little bit more to the cake. And plus my daughter loves sprinkles, so she gets excited anytime they're on a cake of hers. And just keep decorating until you get the look that you want and you get the finish that you like, and then you're good to go. I'm going to take one of those boba tea straws and clean up some of the crumbs from the Oreos that fell onto the bottom tier. And then this cake is all finished. So if you like this video, give it a like and hit subscribe. I'm going to be uploading a new cake tutorial every week, and I hope to see you back soon. Thanks, guys.